With Classic Plus quite literally on the horizon, everyone and their mother has an idea of what Classic Plus should be and why their version is the best. And honestly, most people are wrong. But they're right in the values and feelings they want Classic Plus to carry forward. So that's what I'm going to break down in this video, is the 10 core values and tenets that Classic Plus needs to be the success that Vanilla WoW was in 2004 and that Classic 2019 was when it launched in 2019. And I'm not gonna lie, these 10 things are vital, and even missing one of them could quite literally make Classic Plus a flop. Right off the get-go, the most important thing, number one on the list, is respecting Classic. And what do I mean by respecting Classic? I mean respecting that vanilla experience. They have to change it. There's no way around making a plus without changing the vanilla experience. But respecting it and carrying it forward is integral to Classic Plus being a success. For example, the identity, the core identity of Classic has to carry onwards. When they add new content, when they add new raids, new dungeons, new systems, new mechanics, it has to feel like a continuation of that Classic gameplay. New things are expected, and not just expected, they're needed. But how you implement those new things impacts how the player base receives them. For example, incursions in Phase 3 for SOD, it was new, it was a change, but it was terrible and definitely anti-ethical to Classic. Whereas you have level up raids. Were they necessarily important, or do people even go back to play them? No. But it made that leveling journey, that leveling experience just a little bit better, a little bit funner. They can't just do level up raids as they are from SOD and port them over to Classic Plus. But you can see the difference between two ideas that are brand new, but how they impact the game world is completely different. Everybody has their own ideas of what kind of system should carry forward. And that's a different topic in and of itself. But that core identity needs to be preserved over anything else. And then we have modernization, and Classic Plus has to be modernized. There's no way around it, but they have to avoid over modernizing Classic. Now, how can they add modernization or quality of life or balance without ruining that vanilla experience? Because vanilla is a gritty game. It's boring, it's frustrating, and that's the whole reason people love it. But people at the same time have gotten to this mental position where they kind of want those QOL changes. For example, Chrono Boon. So the Classic player base will accept changes, but those changes are hotly debated and nothing is going to be perfect for everybody. So the devs have to find, essentially, this is what the player base will accept. We just have to ignore the minority that whines. But we have to respect the overall identity. For example, Stormrend as a buff should come in Classic Plus. Chrono Boon from the get-go. The guild UI change, whilst people may dislike it, is actually decent in the grand scheme of things of Classic Plus. Now, is that a perfect system that they should bring forward? Debatable, but it doesn't harm the game. And the last point in respecting the vanilla experience is balance. Classic as a game mode is a very non-homogeneous game. Every single class feels distinct, and sure, Warrior's the best. It's not even close between 1 and 2. You bring 27 Warriors because that's what you do. If you want to pass, if you want to be fast, if you want to pump, you bring Warriors or you play a Warrior. And that's not the greatest form of gameplay. So Classic Plus does need balance, but they don't need to do a lot to make Classic Plus a drastically better game in terms of balance. Make Boomkin do a bit more damage and not run out of mana as fast. Make Rep Paladin have a little bit better control, a little stronger in PvE, but don't really change them too much because it breaks PvP then. Shamans. That leads a whole array of tweaks to make Shamans viable as anything but a healer. You do bring them for Wind Fury or things like that, but they need to have more identity than just being a Wind Fury bot. And Paladin tanks having Taunt. And like I said, there's a whole little array of changes every single class needs to make every class viable, but keeps every single class distinct. And Classic should not be a balanced game. From the get-go, Classic Plus should have certain classes be better than other classes. But by virtue of it being plus, in the long term, that should shift slowly. Maybe come phase 7 or 8 or whatever it is in Classic Plus, they make Paladins the top for a couple phases. And then you can keep shifting and changing, because Classic Plus is meant to be a continuous, forever classic game mode that keeps getting more and more content in that classic world, similar to old school RuneScape. Now, point 2, and this one's an important point, is when they're adding new content, it has to be unique, not a retreading or a retelling of existing content. Now, for example, Molten Core, it's cool. But imagine phase 5 after Nax is Molten Core 2. Now, people would kind of be interested, they'd be amused, but they wouldn't enjoy it. And for example, in SOD, when the 11th mystery boss was the IKEA meatball, people felt disappointed, they felt let down. Not that the IKEA meatball was even a bad boss, but in their minds, in their ideas of an extra boss, they expected Ragnaros Phase 7. You know, you get what I'm saying, like Ragnaros 2, Uber Ragnaros, and things of that nature. The devs are trying, and I have the inkling that they're going to be making newer and cooler things. But until Classic Plus comes out, we won't know what those things are. And then when it comes to new content, that new content shouldn't be we're going to Argus, or we're going to a whole new planet, or a new continent, or a brand new island we've never heard of. It should be finishing the vanilla world. That should be the majority of Classics content for at least 3 or 4 years. If they do want to do brand new, authentic, original things, they should do what they're doing in SOD, Demonfall Canyon, the burning of Anderhall, Shadowhold, Starfall Barrow Dens, taking existing areas that have no content, no plans, no concept, and expanding upon them. If they want to add an OG unique raid, for example, they could do Tears Fall, turn that entire cathedral area into an instance of raid, add 5 or 6 or 7 bosses, and then boom, there you go. You have an extra raid in an original existing part of Azeroth that felt a little unfinished. But for the most part, people just want Hyjal to be finished. They want Grim Batol to be finished. They want Gilneas. They want Talabim. They want the Isle of Dr. Lepidus. They want those OG concepts that were meant to be in the game, but the devs ran out of time and they never came back to them. Outland and the Emerald Dream and locations like that, they're cool conceptually for the devs to finish, but that's such a different idea and a vision that I feel like that's best left till much later on before the devs even dream about visiting those 2 locations in the Classic ecosystem and world. But we talked about new raids, new dungeons, but what we didn't talk about is quest design. And the whole point of Classic's quest design is to travel, is to discover, is to explore. A lot of Classic's quests are very frustrating. Oh, this is nice, I gotta go from Alwyn to Duskwood, from Duskwood to Redridge, from Redridge back to Stormwind, from Stormwind to Westfall. And you're just like, holy shit, I don't give a fuck. Most people have never even read that quest, and that's a really cool quest line. But when you have all this tediousness, for example, the Nixie attunement, it makes you appreciate finishing that and getting that attunement, getting that item, getting that reward. When they continue that in Classic Plus, they should be making these extra long, extra stupid, extra frustrating quest chains. Sure, it sucks, it's not intuitive, but they can add new quest hubs, they can add slightly better leveling locations, more quests, flesh out a few areas that just feel unfinished. But when it comes to the endgame, unlocking a Hyjal or the new raid or the new dungeons, make that shit frustrating. The UBRS key is AIDS. I'm not even gonna lie. You have to run that shit 50 times before you get your key. Or you have to run LBRS 50 times, but you get what I mean. Because later expansions simplified questing. Collect 10 bear asses, do 10 of this, collect me 15 of these. Whereas Classic felt like you had to travel the world because you were the fantasy version of USPS. Now, this is a very small point, but I should clarify and add on to this, is that when you add raids and dungeons, they cannot be too hard. I know, but this is Classic. The whole point of Classic is the fact that you can bring anybody and clear the raids. Should you add a hard mode? Maybe. I'm not against it, but it is against the quotation mark spirit of Classic. But that's a different conversation. Every raid's beginning difficulty, its default difficulty, should be clearable by 4 or 5 good people and 15 bodies without a brain. Because that's what most people expect of Classic, to vibe with your friends, to just have a great time. Jim Bob II, who's literally born from 7 generations of inbreeding, should be able to log on to his Ret Paladin and not pump, but be a body and be funny. In modern MMOs, in modern gaming in general, you don't bring people that aren't good anymore because it's frustrating for you. You want to speed clear, you want to be fast, you want to do all these things. And the game disincentivizes you from bringing bad players. You feel punished for doing it. Now, that whole situation right there is a whole different topic that is very hard to fix. How do you change gamers to go back to being extra friendly and just playing for fun and not chasing pointless metrics and logs and Warcraft logs and passing and things of that nature? I'm not even going to touch that. But that is something the devs should think about. And honestly, what does everybody else think? I'm curious, what is your solution to making everybody be community driven instead of logs and passing driven? And I know the excuse, just find a small or like-minded community, but not everybody can do that. People suck at making friends in the modern day and age. You know what else sucks? My sub count. Hit that button, subscribe, so my vanity and ego feels better. Big number means big ego, means me big man. Sorry, anyways. Now, this third point is lore-driven expansions. And I'm not talking expansions like TBC or Wrath of the Lich King. I'm talking about finishing the existing storylines inside a classic. When you finish Ulduman and you get those quest chains that send you to Teneros to unlock Uldum, and then you realize they never even finished that content, you're just like, oh dang it. And then you look at all the other unfinished quest lines in Azeroth and Classic, and you're like, man, they had some visions, they had some ideas. Imagine how cool it'd be to finish all of those. What's inside Grimbatol? What's inside Hyjal? What's behind Baelgar and the Dark Iron Highway? There is a dozen quest lines that I can name right now that are unfinished. Probably over 50 unfinished quest lines in the vanilla ecosystem. Imagine all those quest lines having an ending or leading to even bigger and better mysteries. Now, this is a long-term thing. I don't expect them to launch Classic Plus and have Hyjal, Grimbatol, the Dark Iron Highway, the Isle of Dr. Lepidus, the Emerald Dream, Outland, and all these locations finished and ready to go from the get-go. I don't think the devs have that many engineers to code or like design all these content, but they can start that slowly. Go from MC to Blackwing Lair to AQ to Nax to Karazhan Crypts. Then ignore the tower for a while. Go from there to unlocking, the lower part of Grimbatol. And then unlock the Isle of Dr. Lepidus. And then add another location somewhere else, for example, Uldum. And then do a phase or two of dungeons. Add a hard level to Molten Core, for example, for phase 8 or 9. They can do content slowly. It doesn't have to be everything from the get-go. But they need to finish those OG ideas and those OG stories, because that's what people want from Classic Plus. The finishing of what made Classic Plus or what made Classic itself amazing. And the final thing I have to add to the lore is we should stay as Bumfuck Adventurer 1 and Bumfuck Adventurer 1 to 40. What do I mean by that? In BFA, in Shadowlands, in Dragonflight, even in the War Within, we are the champion, the Sword of Azeroth, the God Savior. Because I've saved this planet 17 times. I'm kind of sick and tired of saving it. I miss when I was Bumchuckle the 7th, putting my stupid ass clown outfit on and being like, hey guys, you want to go into MC? I want to get a shiny. And there's 700 people marching into MC to fight Ragnaros. That's what's cool about the OG lore. You were a nobody. Lore-wise, Blackwing Lair and AQ40 and Naxxramas and even MC, it wasn't just 25 champions, though that is what happened later on. It was hundreds upon hundreds of adventurers sieging these locations. That 25 adventurers who don't have a name in the modern lore, those people happen later on. In Classic Plus, we should stay as nobodies. I want to be a part of the world, and I want to live in the world story, not have the world story written and designed around me. Now, the fourth point, the most controversial point, I'm going to divide the entire player base, is class, homogenization, and balance. Now, a lot of people dislike modern WoW or other expansions because actually the War Within is actually really good. I don't want to say dislike the War Within, but you get what I'm saying. Because every class feels the same to a degree. Oh, Blood DK is the best tank this phase. Guess I'm playing Blood DK. Oh, this season it's Guardian Druid. It's very rarely Guardian Druid, that's a lie. This phase it's Paladin, or this phase it's Monk. And you just pick like the best tank and you run it, and leveling is super easy. There's no like class identity. You just pick the best tank and you run that, or the best healer and you run that, or the best DPS and you run that. To a degree, phase to phase, it changes so much, and every class has every ability and utility and just vibe that doesn't have that distinction that Classic is known for. But how can you really balance or improve these classes and maintain their class identity? This sucks to say, but certain classes just have to suck ass. For example, in SOD, every class is strong, but every class still has an identity. Now, all they really need to do is lower everybody's power level down to back here, because we're doing Ulduar damage in MC. That's insane. But you guys understand what I'm saying. Boomkin should feel viable, but I should still feel like a chicken. Rep Paladin should still feel like Rep Paladin. Prot Paladin should feel like Prot Paladin. Shaman Tank and Warlock Tank feel good. Now, should those be added to Classic Plus? That's a whole different debate. Is Metamorphosis too powerful and too unique and makes you feel like too much of a hero to be in World of Warcraft Classic? To a degree, yes, but they have to balance the classes and make Classic Plus feel better to play, because that's what people want to do. They want to play their favorite class and not feel punished for picking it. But certain classes should still be better. It sucks for me to say, but Warrior should be the best DPS up until Nax. Should they be drastically better than everybody else? No. at least until Nax, warriors should have their time to shine before they start sliding down the damage meters by phase 9 and 10 and being at the bottom. Now, I'm not a fan of nerfing. I'm not a fan of nerf meta, as people like to call it. So the dev should find a way to balance buff meta where you buff weaknesses but keep identity. Make classes better to play. Now, in terms of class balance and optimization, it's going to be too long of a video, and I might make a whole video dedicated to class balance and classic plus. Let me know if you guys actually want to see that. But the devs need to at least try and do what they did in SOD, or lower the power level, lower the power creep, and try to keep classes unique without homogenizing things, but keep them more in line with classic. In SOD, they've done a decent job. I'm not even gonna shit on SOD, it's a lot of different problems, but class balance isn't really one of those things. Now, point 5 is going to be difficult. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I don't know if the devs can do this. And this topic is PvP and balancing PvP and making it fun and just making an enjoyable experience for everybody. Classic PvP is by and far one of the worst versions of PvP to ever be PvP'd in World of Warcraft's history. But it was unique, it was frustrating, it was shitty, but it was classic. And honestly, that's kind of hard to beat. In Season of Discovery, they did these PvP events. They did Ashen Veil, STV again, BRE, and they nailed some things, but they missed the mark on a lot of points. So what can the devs do to make that better in Classic Plus? And it's honestly hard. You would need to a degree to add arenas and rated battlegrounds to make the open world be not as frustrating. But at the same time, if you start balancing the game with PvP in mind, PvE and PvP abilities may have to be separated, because balancing them around the same kind of abilities is going to ruin one experience. Now, they could add resilience or separate the gear, but that runs into the TBC problem. But then they could also homogenize the classes and give everybody more abilities and utility and just try to balance the classes a lot more harder to make PvP viable for everybody, but then that leads into the homogenization issue of class balance and identity. So the devs are stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's no winning here. No matter what they do, that's going to be controversial. There's going to be hundreds, not thousands of hate threads, Twitter apps, Reddit posts, Discord forums, just everything is going to lose their mind because PvP is sweaty, it's disgusting, and the kind of people that know life it and play it a lot are the type to complain very aggressively. But they're entitled to, and they should complain and make their voices and opinions heard. There is no easy way around this. But there are two things they can do right from the get-go. Open world PvP experiences that are organic and authentic. Like I said, the SOD PvP events, they were a good idea. They didn't work well because of the player base and the way modern gamers play, but there are good ideas there that can be implemented forward. For example, EPL having the towers be a proper objective and a proper open world PvP experience. That could be entertaining and that could be good. Or Silithus having the Horde vs Alliance open world battleground, honor gains, rewards, that could also be beneficial and incentivize open world PvP. Terran Mill vs South Shore, that's another big one and a very authentic memory to a lot of people, the PvP you did there. Or even STV. Now, the STV event was probably the best event they've done, but they could have made more. Better rewards, more reason to PvP, better ways to PvP. The event was okay, but with Classic Plus, they should strive for better. They should take what they learned and improve upon it. Again, I'm not even going to sit here and act like this is an easy task. I don't know what the best solution is, because there is no easy way to make it work. And as I said, no matter what they do, the forums are gonna be a shit show. So honestly, good luck, Agrand. Like, you have my blessings. I hope you succeed, because God knows people are gonna complain no matter what happens. But the second thing they can do is balancing racials. Yes, I know, you guys heard me right. Balance the racials. Don't make people pick Horde versus Alliance solely based off of racial, like Will of the Forsaken or things of that nature. Now, how can they do this? Maybe something similar to what the Priest class did in SOD, where you could pick the other factions or races' racial ability. So, for example, everybody got Stone Skin or whatnot. But it's not an easy solution, because that race identity, that race uniqueness is what made Classic very unique. And each further expansion kept homogenizing things, and then at a certain point, everybody started playing Horde, and now the Alliance is the faction on the back end, because every single player and guild that's top tier is a Horde guild, because of the racials. And at this point, all the top tier players just play on Horde side because they've been playing Horde for so long. I'm not even going to sit here and act like this is going to be easy. So we're going to move on to the sixth point. And the sixth point is better quality of life without simplifying Classic too much. Now, what do I mean by that? They should streamline QOL FX but not make the game simple. The game shouldn't play for you, shouldn't log on and have things handed to you, but the game should have quality of life effects. For example, one of the simplest ones, flying mount should never be added. But flying across Azeroth shouldn't take 35 minutes. I shouldn't be able to go and prepare a whole ass 3-star meal in my kitchen before I land. Increase the speed by 2x or 3x or 4x to make it slightly faster and more convenient. All they need to do is add more zeppelins, add more boats, heck, maybe even a couple extra flight paths for all those extra little quest hubs they add to the game world. But make the world still alive. Adding extra flight paths or faster flying shouldn't ruin the game or break the immersion, it should complement it. But that's just one quality of life element that should be added to Classic Plus. Guild banks is another one. I don't care what anybody says, but if you run a guild, you have a guild bank alt. It's a pain in the ass. There's nothing wrong with adding a guild bank to the game. It helps your guild and it's easier for GMs and leaders to make their guild life easier. Another QOL effect they should add, make it so that you can buff the whole raid, but make it so that one cast completely drains your mana. Make it 100% mana cost. Make it a slightly more expensive cast, but make it extra convenient that you can just buff your whole raid with one cast. Something that people would like. Mage tables. People would love that, to be able to get everybody food instead of having to trade everybody your stacks individually. Food tables. But at a certain point, you do start reaching the level of everything is super convenient and super easy, and they should not do that. The devs have to pick and choose what quality of life effects are better for the game versus what is more needed. Because need is more important than want, and they should prioritize the things that the game needs. Because remember, this isn't Classic, this is Classic Plus. This is finishing Classic and making things better. Quotation marks better, because people may not like that. Another thing they should add, make it so that some add-ons are at this point just built into the game. It sucks to say, but Questy, for example, Alv UI, things of that nature have billions of downloads. Like, you know at this point that people use Questy. You know that they use add-ons like Alv UI so they can shift the UI elements around. Build those things into the game, because people are going to download and use them anyways. Sure, some people might say, I don't use Questy. I read and explore everything. Shut up, you're the minority. You're 100% the minority. I have not met one person in my last 15 years of World of Warcraft that hasn't used an add-on of some kind of Blizzard's built-in Questy. And I've been playing for 20 years. So like goddamn, I believe that you do not use Questy, but 99% of the player base does, because honestly, it's cancer without it. And that kind of accessibility is important and useful. Being able to shift your UI around without needing an add-on, that's very important. But again, engineering support is limited. I don't know how much support the devs have to do all these changes, but Classic Plus does need better QOL effects and QOL things added to the game, but at the same time making the game slightly more accessible and easy to use without breaking that classic immersion. It's a very fine, very delicate balance. Now we are moving on to point 7, community-driven development. Now, what does that even mean? The devs should follow from the old school RuneScape book and some specific private servers and listen to the players. Now, keep in mind, most of the player base has conflicting opinions, but the majority do agree on certain things. So having an in-game poll where people can suggest changes and the community can vote, 1 vote per character or things of that nature, and the devs can then see what the people want. Or for example, if the devs want to add a feature, they can add a polling booth in-game in Orgrimmar and Stormwind, and everybody can walk into the polling booth and then they can vote yes or no for the feature. And the devs can see, did the community vote overwhelmingly yes, despite the very loud vocal minority saying no? Then add the feature. Did the very loud minority actually be correct and everybody voted no? Then don't implement it. Making sure they listen to players, but not taking the players for granted or using them 100% is needed and necessary for the future Classic Plus. Not every decision the devs think is good will be good, and not every decision the player base thinks is bad will be bad. There is a fine and delicate balance of what Classic Plus needs to be successful, to be good for the future of the game. Another thing they should do, and this one is important, is more community-driven tournaments and things of that nature. For example, the Mak'gora tournament. That was amazing, had amazing viewership, people were interested, people were invested, they brought all the creators in the community together, people got to compete, and they had a good time. They should add more things like that. They should add more events. The 20th anniversary event in retail looks fucking amazing. They should have things like that in Classic. Now, again, I know, controversial, difficult, hard to implement, but they need to do more for the community. And the devs are trying. They're genuinely trying. I have full faith and belief in their passion. and their dedication to the game. I just hope they get the support and the resources necessary to make Classic Plus a very community-driven and very community-active game. And the community needs to stop sending the devs death threats. Holy shit, guys, that's not solving anything. Like, I get it, Warrior's ass, but telling the devs to go commit toaster bath isn't making them fix Warrior. It's making them ignore you. But the final and most important thing is transparency. The devs need to show us what they're working on and give us constant updates on the future of Classic Plus, what that looks like, and what the coming phases hold in for everybody. Now, whether that's a monthly Warcraft Direct or a Classic Direct where they tell us what they've been working on, it can be 5 minutes some months, it can be 30 minutes some months. But keeping that communication avenue open and transparent is very important. Now, I don't want to tell the devs what to do. They'll probably figure something out and make something really interesting and like something very entertaining for people to be able to learn and keep in mind of what's coming and what that future looks like. And I hope the devs pick a really solid way of keeping that transparency open in the future and as of now as well. Now, point 8 is a difficult one, and much like class balance, it could be a video on its own. And that is professions and farming and all of that. And it's so much to cover that I don't want to dedicate 15 minutes or 30 minutes to just one section, but I will touch on it. Professions and crafting are incredibly important to the game. And when Classic or when Vanilla first came out, it was such a huge part of the game that people would raid or dungeon and crafted blues and green and things of that nature because people didn't know where to go. They didn't know where to farm. They didn't know where to go and grind the best gear or get the best things or the drop rates of every item. Those things came over time as the community mastered the game and figured out everything down to the 0.1%. But just like Solid expanded crafting and made professions feel slightly better, they should up the ante and make more. Add more and make professions feel better and better on every stage of the game, from level 1 to level 60. Every single part of crafting and gathering should feel good. Now, like I said, it's too long to justify and clarify what they need to do for every single profession. But there's one thing that they should do and that everybody would agree on. Well, actually, there's two things. One, make it so you can have 2 gathering professions and 2 regular professions. So you don't have to pick between blacksmithing and mining. You can do mining and herbalism, and then you can take engineering and blacksmithing. So now you can have all the crafting you need and incentivize more active open world interaction and grinding for resources and things of that nature. The second thing is, don't make engineering best for every single class. I'm not saying nerf engineering, but make other crafting professions better or equivalent to a degree. Engineering has too much presence and power within class, and in Classic Plus that should not be the case. And that's where I'm gonna leave that for now. Like I said, this requires so much effort that good luck to the devs. Much like balancing PvP, good luck to the devs. This is not gonna be easy, but I trust. You know what, I'll let you guys cook there. But if you have opinions for the devs or thoughts about professions, let me know in the comments below. What do people think the devs need to do to make professions and crafting and gathering feel really good in Classic Plus? But now we move on to perhaps the single most controversial, honestly controversial might not even be the right word for this one, but cheating and botting. And mainly botting. Well, by botting I mean gold selling and buying. It's a big problem across the board. There needs to be very robust anti-cheating, anti-gold buying, anti-gold selling, just anti-botting systems put into Classic Plus to destroy the botting scene before it ever begins. And I know this is a gargantuan task. I have talked to the devs at Blizzard. I have talked to GMs who used to work at Blizzard. It's not easy. From what I know, they can't ban people fast enough for the botters to not make more accounts. And again, whether Blizzard speaks the truth in this regard or not is irrelevant. It's clearly very hard because every single game, every single online forum, every single online version of anything is plagued by bots. The dead internet theory is ringing true to a degree. Honestly, Twitter might be 50% bots at this point and you wouldn't know. You could go into your Discord, half the friends you know could be AI. You'll never know. But the point I'm making is, it's a very difficult task and I don't know how the devs are going to achieve this. Could they hire 100 GMs? True. Would that solve it? Would just straight raw banning every single hunter or mage in low-level dungeons be the way to go? Honestly, maybe. Does that suck? Would it suck to be a major hunter and know you can't go into a low-level dungeon without getting banned? Yeah, but honestly, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Don't roll major hunter. So what do you want me to say? I'm not saying that's the right answer, but I hope the devs figure it out because Classic Plus genuinely needs the devs to make sure that the botting scene and the gold buying and selling scene is brutally shut down. Honestly, it sucks to say, but if 50 or 65% of the player base buys gold, ban half your player base. They'll make new accounts. Just like once people realize that, oh shit, I'm gonna get perma banned for buying gold, like sure, it sucks, you lost your 10-year-old account, but maybe don't buy gold then. Like, the devs gotta do what the devs gotta do. There has to be a solution that works. So, we are gonna move on to point 10. And this last point is essentially probably one of the most important points. A sustainable endgame and long-term goals. Now, Classic has always been about the journey, and despite modern classic gaming not being about the journey anymore, the journey is probably one of the most important and incredible parts of the entire classic ecosystem. And I don't know how the devs can emulate that. I don't think the journey from 1 to 60 matters anymore. Sure, if they add new leveling zones, add a whole bunch of new quest hubs, they could make the journey feel important or cool once again. But I feel like for most people, Classic at this point has become a raid logging simulator or an endgame goal chasing simulator. And people don't seem to care anymore about doing the journey from 1 to 60 as much as they care about doing the long ass boring grind 60 plus. So they need to add more content for both. There has to be a way to re-incentivize people to care about that 1 to 60 journey, as well as giving people proper end game goals to work towards. That tier 0.5 quest in SOD, that was really solid. It was a really good change and the world was super active, but they should slow it down a bit. Not necessarily make it more grindy, but make it maybe a little time gated. And that sucks for me to say, but everybody shouldn't be grinding 200 hours in the first 2 weeks just to get their 0.5 set ready to go. Things should be a bit slower, but there should be more avenues and more ways to get endgame gear. So if everybody doesn't want to do the 0.5 stuff, they can do the PvP stuff. They can do the raiding stuff. They can do the endgame dungeon stuff. There should be multiple avenues to get that pre-raid gear to jump into raids. That's just one element though. Longevity also comes in the form of proper raiding. The raiding tiers. MC to Blackwing Lair to AQ40 to Nax to Karazhan Crypts to Hyjal, Grimbatal, yada yada yada. The gear jump needs to be similar. You need to keep getting 10 to 25% stronger each raid tier. As we are right now, our gear is equivalent if not drastically better than Nax gear. It's way too much in MC to be that strong. I'm talking about SOD right now. So in Classic Plus, MC gear should be maybe slightly more tuned, add a couple extra sets for the other off-spec classes, but for the most part, focus more on making sure every class can play, and then make that power creep happen very slowly and very gradually. We should be at the power level we are right now, 4 or 5 years into Classic. Now again, I don't know how they can maintain the gradual power increase without it being too broken, but it shouldn't be that hard, I don't think. They should be able to add multiple raid tiers and multiple ways to play without breaking the game or making everybody obscenely powerful, and making people still excited to upgrade their gear or get new pieces. And this is mostly horizontal progression. Adding levels and like making things like that is not really Classic, and they shouldn't do that. I don't want to be level 70 in Classic. I want to stay 60. Maybe they could add a Paragon system. Every new raid tier gives you 2 more levels, right? Paragon levels or something of that nature. I don't know what they can do. Again, I'm just spitballing. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but there are ways to add horizontal progression without breaking the game. Maybe every 2 years they add an extra 5 levels, Paragon levels, and you get 1 extra talent point. So within 4 years after Classic Plus launches, you have 2 extra talent points. How sick would that be? That sounds really cool, does it not? You can change your build and be a little stronger, a little more unique, but it takes time to get to that point. But on top of that, they need to focus more on the world. They need to keep adding dungeons, they need to keep adding quests, they need to keep adding open world events. The Crypts and the Tower of Karazhan should have a whole event to open it. The Siege of Gilneas should be a thing. We should break into Gilneas and force to open to the world. Storming Grimbatal should be a whole quest line. The defense of Hyjal should be a thing where the demons are trying to get to Archimonde's corpse to resurrect Archimonde, and we should be stopping them. Because did you guys know? That was the OG storyline for Vanilla Hyjal. They were meant to stop the resurrection of Archimonde. Now that plotline's long scrap, but they could go back to it. There are so many events and things that they could do that could incentivize open world events. Scarab Lord was cool, but what about the Demon Lord for defending Hyjal? Or what about the Dragon Lord for saving Grimbatal and cleansing it? Or what about Lord of Humanity for defending against the Amani Empire? There are so many cool things for them to do. New races, new cosmetics, new titles, new mounts. Add achievements, add a way to grind and live in the world, but don't break the world and make it something it's not meant to be, because it's meant to be classic but finished. So honestly, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's long as shit. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed everything. If you hated the video and hated everything I said, like and subscribe, and then hate every single video. Manually go and dislike every single video. Be a man. Thank you all. Ebenhard out.